All right, so today we are in for a treat, ladies and gentlemen. I say ladies and gentlemen because I have a feeling, due to the title of this video, we may get more than just men watching. Every once in a while, the YouTube algorithm it just brings you something that must be shared, it must be shown, it must be looked at and reviewed and just the name of the video that the YouTube algorithm just mindlessly, arbitrarily brought to me is Why I Tell Married Men to Masturbate More. So as soon as I saw that, I said, oh, that sounds like an interesting topic. And I watched the video and I had quite a lot to say. Then I watched it again and I had more to say. And I watched it again and I kept watching it in hopes of finding what I wanted to respond to and what I didn't want to respond to. But there's too much here. Every time I watch it, I find more things that I want to respond to. So we're just going to play the video here. I'll stop it when I feel like maybe I need to say something because there's just. Now, I'm not going to say I disagree with 100% of the things that this woman is saying. If you've ever gone down the rabbit hole that is the sex coaching genre, okay. So this woman's target audience, I would suspect, is probably a lot different from this channel's, okay? I would say that she's probably aiming her focus at men who would go to the Yay Feminism is Great rally, but that's okay. Everybody's got to have somebody that speaks to them. So we're going to play the video. We'll talk about it, but I'm not just playing it for me to react. I'm going to let it play through. I'm going to interrupt, but I'm going to show you the whole thing that she says because I'm curious. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So yeah, let's just get yourself a drink. All right, it's not going to be 5 minutes. Okay, we're going to be here a couple of minutes. And so, yeah, I need to know why this woman, who is a self-professed sex coach, or whatever word she uses, apparently she's got thousands of clients. I mean, she got 850,000 subscribers. So I'm punching up. I can say what I want. So we'll just have to deal with that accordingly. And yeah, so here we go.
Here's the most counterintuitive piece of advice I give my clients.
Now, I wanted to pause it here. I'm not going to pause it a lot like that, but I just that you see the client. Do you see the man there? That's so. All right, we good? That's her clients. Okay, and she's admitted it's counterintuitive. So.
And usually before I say anything else, go masturbate. That is the assignment. Whether you are pursuing your partner and hitting a wall, or you've stopped pursuing, or whether or not you feel guilty about your current practices, this video is for you. Because what I have found after 11 years of coaching men is that the guilt and secrecy around solo sex is doing far more damage to your relationship than the act itself ever could. Here's the catch though. I'm not telling you to just go rub one out and call it therapy. I mean something specific. Intentional, mindful, present, self-love practice.
Intentional, mindful, present, self-love practice. I wonder how long it took her on the SEO worksheet to come to formulate that. That's wild. This is a video telling men to masturbate if their wives are not interested. And I'm not just talking about rubbing one out. I'm talking about intentional, mindful, present, self-love practice. Now, before we get any further, just real quick, the premise of this video I disagree with in the extent that it's not always the man who wants more sex than the woman. This video was entirely from the perspective of man bad, woman good, man begging woman for sex, and the woman saying no. All I'm going to say is that I made a halfway decent living in my younger days solely and specifically from women who were sexually dissatisfied in their relationships. And I would say 75% of the time it was the man was not interested in enough sex. Every once in a while, you'd meet women who thought their man wanted too much. But the idea that it's just the man who wants more sex than the woman, that's absolutely flawed.
The kind that actually changes things. Here are 7 reasons that masturbation can save your relationship.
Okay.
Number 1, it gets you out of lack. You cannot approach your partner from need and expect her to respond with desire. If you haven't had a release in days and you are coming towards her with hunger underneath it all, she can feel it. Women, most of us, are exquisitely attuned to the quality of attention that we are receiving. And they're
Okay. So once again, it's the woman who is exquisitely in tuned to thing. And now I understand what she's trying to say here. The problem is that even if I go along and agree with what she's saying, later on in the video, shockingly, she's going to contradict herself. But what she's trying to do is tiptoe over the line between need and desire. And she's going to get into this a little bit more. But again, I disagree with her whole concept here. The idea that the woman is going to tell you yes or no based upon if she feels you just need sex or if you desire her is somewhat preposterous, but she's going to give us a reason later on, partially as to why that is. So let's continue.
there's a real difference between wanting her and needing something from her. And she knows that difference before you have ever said a word. This is not a flaw in how she is designed. It is an honest response to pressure. Like, I had worked with a client who was convinced that his wife had lost all interest in him. He kept approaching her constantly. She kept saying no, and he was increasingly frustrated. My first question was, when is the last time that you took care of yourself?
That's the advice. My wife doesn't want to have sex with me, and her magical advice is, when's the last time you took care of yourself?
He looked at me like I had just spoken to him in a Martian language. But when we dug into it, he had this deeply held belief that masturbating in a relationship was the equivalent of cheating himself out of the real thing. So he had stopped entirely. And the pressure had built to the point where every interaction with his wife had this current of need running under it, and naturally she could feel it. When you get your own needs met regularly, you can approach your partner from freedom rather than starvation, and that shift alone will change everything.
Well, what that's going to change, and again, she's going to get into this a little bit later, but I understand that probably the words that she's probably trying to say is, don't appear to be too desperate. If you're too desperate, it might be a turnoff to the woman. Now, I can understand that perspective, but the idea that we're going to try to negotiate the nuance between whether a man is feeling the right percentage of need slash desire for the intuitively perceptive woman, as she said, she knows before you even say anything. So she's going to do this again. She's going to admit that women will think things that really may not be there. So we'll continue. So, but I just wanted to bring that up because I understand the word that she's trying to maybe use is desperate. But again, later on, she's going to contradict herself. And so far, I hear what she's trying to say, even though I completely disagree with her.
Number 2, it untangles your needs.
Here we go.
Sexuality covers a lot of different human needs: release, intimacy, connection, love. And a lot of men just collapse all of those things into one thing and call it sex.
Yes. Yes, we do. And the reason why we do that is because that's what the women have told us. The women will overwhelmingly pound it into our little peanut brains that, why does it just have to be that you're horny? Why can't it be a more emotional or spiritual, right? Men have not Men have not gotten there on their own. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more because she brings up an example. This is a direct response to what women have been telling us that they want.
The problem is that that puts enormous pressure on sex and enormous pressure on your partner. Sometimes what you want is intimacy, making love, lying close, feeling truly seen. Sometimes what you're looking for is connection, a real vulnerable conversation, presence. Sometimes you need release. And that is what masturbation is for.
There you go. So what she's telling us, gentlemen, is when you want to have sex the way that the woman would prefer, that's when the woman will be receptive to you. But when you want to have sex the way the man might prefer, nah, just that's too much pressure. Just take care of yourself. This is the beginning of where things just get ridiculously selfish.
Think of it like having a separate stomach for dessert. Just because you're not hungry for a full meal doesn't mean that you can't want something sweet. Different cravings that can be met separately without canceling each other out. Your release needs and connection needs and intimacy needs are not the same thing.
That I completely agree upon. 1,000%. There's just completely different needs. But that doesn't mean, and this goes both ways. When I'm saying this, it doesn't matter to me. Like I said, this is not always the man is the only one that wants to have more sex. I've lived plenty of situations where the woman is the one. You're in a relationship. You've committed to each other. Now, I'm not going to say the other person's needs are, quote, your responsibility. But at the same time, this isn't just a one-way street. Sometimes it's the way one person would want it to be. Sometimes it's the way the other person would want it to be. And a lot of times, you guys will just kind of meet in the middle and have a little bit of both kinds of sex at the same time. But what she wants you to do, that's a pretty good look for the thumbnail. What she wants you to do is just only have sex when the other person prefers that type of way. And when you are just in the mood for a quickie, well, just take care of yourself.
Masturbation can give you a release and a certain kind of self-connection, but it cannot replace the closeness and the eye contact and the feeling of being chosen by the person who you choose back. That's what you do with your partner. But when you stop asking sex to take care of everything, then you both can start enjoying it more. Number 3, it takes the pressure off her. Desire discrepancy, where one person wants sex more than the other, is one of the most common reasons that couples enter coaching. And most of the advice out there is aimed at the low desire partner. We say increase your libido, work through your blocks, take your foot off of the brake, try to meet your partner where they are. None of that is bad advice, but it's incomplete. And I personally have spouted a ton of that advice on my 11 years on YouTube. But a large study of over 30,000 people found that relationship well-being increases with sexual frequency, but only up to about once a week.
Okay. And then she's going to go on to say, if you have sex twice a week, it doesn't increase the sexual frequency. And herein lies something that I wonder how many of you men are picking up on. Relationship well-being increases with the sexual frequency, but only up to about once a week, which means they're having no sex. And then your relationship well-being increases if you have sex once per week. You follow what I'm saying? And this is a pattern that's going to repeat. If you're in a relationship and you do not have any inkling, any desire, any need for sex, at least the one time a week, then the problem is with the low desire person. That's where the issue is. Now, it may just be that, people let themselves go, right? And this goes for both the men and the women. You cannot meet your person when you are in really good shape and then just purposefully get comfortable and let yourself go and expect them to continue to be sexually attracted to you. They may still feel the love and there may be that desire, but some of that desire may be removed by just a complete letting go of the physical appearance of the one person. Either way, man or woman, you can't let yourself go. But I found this interesting because she tried to use it to prove a point. But the point is that people who want no sex, people that are having no sex in their relationships, would be totally fine if it's just like, can we just once a week, once a week? Like that's the part that should not be difficult. And what she's telling us is that, well, instead of that once a week, just take care of yourself.
More than that doesn't produce more happiness, which means that the
Correct.
goal isn't to have sex as often as possible. It's to have meaningful, mutually wanted sex and then fill the rest of the gap yourself. Here's something
There
I
you
feel
go.
strongly
See?
about. Constantly asking the low desire partner to produce desire that they don't feel is not natural, and it creates pressure. And pressure is what kills desire. The safest environment for a low desire partner to actually want sex again is one where she's not bracing. When that pressure comes off the table, then desire actually has room to show up on its own.
That's a lie. That is a 100% a lie that women will use to get you to stop asking for sex. But all that it leads to is her natural desire showing up, which is none, which is none. Okay? So what happens is she'll say, "Well, if you wouldn't ask so much, right? You've heard so far, don't be so needy, right? And don't ask so much, and then, maybe that'll put me in the mood more." But that's a lie. It never works. All that happens when you stop asking is several things that happen. Number one, sometimes, and she's going to admit this later, sometimes the woman will just make it up in her head that you no longer desire her, or maybe you're going outside the relationship for the sex. Number two, when you stop asking, if you continuing to ask for sex once a week is making her feel pressure, and you stop asking, she's going to be so comfortable in that she's going to forget about sex altogether, and it's never going to happen. And any woman that tells you, hey, if you wouldn't ask so much, it would happen more, is an absolute lie. So they're 100% lying to you. Now, they may not be lying on purpose. They may think that if you stop asking them so often that they're going to desire you more. But no, because as we've already seen, we're talking about people in a sexless relationship saying, hey, I'd be a lot happier with sex one more time. At some point, the blame shifts. If one partner, if you're having sex 3 times a week and somebody is saying, hey, this isn't enough, I need it 4 or 5 times, then the person who is not satisfied with 3 times a week needs to do some work, needs to figure some things out. But if you're having no sex, and the idea that you're asking for sex once per week is causing the other person to feel pressure to the point where they don't want to have sex, they don't need to be in a relationship, and they need to figure out why they don't want sex. And sometimes, like she's saying, it's not okay to be constantly asking the lower desire partner to produce desire that they don't have. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. However, the focus should still be on the lower desire partner attempting to figure out, why am I not feeling the desire? And most of the time, what's going to happen is like what's happening in this video. They're going to say, well, if you this, if you that, if you this, and you that. And then as men, what we will do is we will do all the things that they say that we need to do to make their desire more. And it never works because we're not the problem. The higher desire sexual partner, whether it's a man or a woman, is usually not, they're not the problem if you're talking about trying to get from no sex to 1 time per week. If you're getting laid 3 times a week and you're complaining that it's not 4 or 5, then yeah, you probably are the problem.
Masturbation then isn't a consolation prize, it is a part of what makes that system sustainable. Number 4, It keeps your approach healthy. I had a client who had essentially reorganized his entire life around maximizing his chances of having sex with his girlfriend. He was tracking her moods, tracking her cycles, he was timing date nights, he was engineering situations. Understandably, she could feel the hidden agenda, or maybe even not so hidden agenda, underneath all of their interactions, which was making her want to pull back even more. It's like,
I wonder how many of you guys already know what I'm going to say. The man did not just magically rainbow unicorn and think up all of those things to say. I guarantee you, 100%, with every fiber of my being, that every single thing that that man did was because the woman told him that's what she wanted. If you would wait till I'm in a better mood, if you would wait till I don't have to work the next day, if you could approach me like this, maybe we could go to dinner first. Maybe we could have a little bit of conversation. I guarantee you 1,000,000% that she told him, if you do all these things, then maybe I'm going to want desire more. And then what happens? He does all of the things, and now she's complaining to her therapist, which is this woman, about, oh, I just felt pressure because I know he's doing all of these things because he wants sex. At some point, you just don't belong in a relationship. But I guarantee you, 1,000,000%, everything that man did, he did because at one point or another, the woman said that those were the things he needed to do in order for her to not feel the pressure that she then eventually felt anyway.
the person at the dinner who shows up so hungry that they just start plowing through the breadbasket before anyone has even sat down. It's not wrong to be hungry. It's just a little uncouth to devour something in that way, especially when everyone can see it. I've been on the other side of this too. When a partner was withholding for me for whatever reason, I also started keeping score. I also started manufacturing situations. I got critical about how he spent all of his free time. If he gave someone something I felt like was being taken away from me, I came at him for that. And I'm telling you this because that version of me was not someone who he wanted to come home to, understandably. And your partner might be living that same experience right now. Now, I've also experienced the opposite. A partner who I knew wanted me, but when he showed up, felt desperate. What's true is that restraint is magnetic, and there is a difference between a man who exercises self-possession and a man who is looking at you like a cheeseburger. When you take care of your own needs regularly, you get to be the first kind of man.
I can't tell you how many female clients I had that would be upset and disappointed and complaining and bitching and complaining that their man did not look at them exactly how she's describing, like a cheeseburger. And he doesn't, I don't see him desiring me when he looks at me. The number of complaints that I heard about that specific thing is astronomical.
Number 5, it makes you a better lover. How you masturbate is your dress rehearsal for how you have sex. If you're rushing through it, half distracted, just trying to finish, you're training your nervous system to do exactly that. So slow it down, pay attention, notice what actually feels good instead of going through the motions. I've had clients make this shift and then come back to me with this look on their face, like something has finally clicked. For years, they had thought that their partner's pace was the problem. She takes too long. She's too in her head. Then they slowed down their own practice and felt, maybe for the first time, what it's actually like to stay in the experience rather than race through it. And the realization finally hit. She wasn't the one who was off, they were.
Now, of course, she's talking about one specific type of situation where the man is obviously not listening to what the woman is saying about what she needs. But I want to go back to what she said about it makes you a better lover. Now, from a purely medical perspective, practicing taking longer to finish when you're taking care of yourself will make it so that you can last longer during sex. That part is true. It's a known thing, especially if any of you know what edging is. You know what I'm talking about. So she's not wrong there. But again, she's really pigeonholed this situation into the guy didn't know what he was doing, and she's not left any room there for the problem to be anything other than stupid man.
Every rush had been asking her to abandon her own body and race to meet them at an arbitrary finish line. Changing how they touched themselves changed how they touched their partners forever. Number 6, it gives her the right story. Most couples never.
Okay, this is important because now we're really getting to the point. So she's going to be talking about masturbation. And she starts it off by saying it gives her the right story, gives her the real story. Pay attention to what she's going to say because you rarely will hear a woman admit this. And I think she just kind of did it on accident. And even though she's admitting that women do it, she's still blaming the man.
Talk about this. And in that silence, both partners start writing their own versions of what it means. She's probably telling herself that you do it because she's not enough. Maybe that you prefer it. Maybe that if she was more attractive, younger, more available, less busy with the kids, then you probably wouldn't need to. And I know that she's probably wrong about that. But
Okay, did you catch all of that? Did you catch how many different reasons she's admitting the woman is making up in her head as to why the guy might masturbate? Now, some of them would be not true. If if you were more attractive, obviously that's your wife. That's not the problem. Although I suppose it could be part of the problem if she's let herself go. But I want to focus on one thing that she said would be a reason that's not true, and that was, well, if I'm more available. That's the whole point to the video. That's the whole point that she's making. And here she is saying the woman is going to feel like the man is only masturbating because one of the reasons would be like because she's not available enough. That's the point that you're telling men to do is when she's not available, when she's not interested, take care of yourself. So you're making it sound like the man needs to tell her something different, but that might be the truth. It might be the truth that she's gained 75 pounds and maybe he does prefer it now because she's completely let herself go. So while she is admitting that the women will make this stuff up in their heads, and we've all experienced that, she's shifting the blame to the man for not having told the woman why he's masturbating in the first place.
she won't stop believing it until you give her something else
See,
to
it's,
believe.
it's our
And
fault.
here's what that story looks like in practice.
It's our fault.
She stops initiating touch, not just sex, but like casual touch. That hand on your shoulder, leaning into you on the couch. She gets more critical and quicker to find fault in how you spend your time and energy. Sex, when it does happen, feels like she's going through the motions. You write it off as stress or the relationship just aging and losing its spark or just what happens after years together. But a lot of what you're reading as distance or disinterest is her living inside of a story that she invented.
Is her living inside of a story she invented. Because you never gave her the real one. So you see, she's got all these things in her head that she's made up. And of course, any of those things that she's made up are going to be negative. She didn't make up anything positive about you. God forbid. That's not going to happen. She's living inside a story she invented because you never gave her the real one. I'm curious, has she asked for the real story? Does she want the real story? Because the premise of this video is to take care of yourself when your woman won't because she's not in the mood. And now what do you want us to tell her? I'm curious, what would you like us to tell her now if she's like, hey, why are you taking care of yourself 2 or 3 nights a week now? Why? What lie would you want us to tell her? Because the reason is probably because, well, you're not giving me any. I got to take care of myself. You think that there's a woman that's going to be okay with that? Now maybe there's a woman that's not going to get angry with you about it, but we are so far beyond the boundaries of anything that would be considered healthy. We've gone off the rails here. But that right there, right, she's admitting that the woman makes it up in her head, but it's our fault. It's our fault. It's unbelievable.
because you never gave her the true one. And for some of you, the silence goes deeper than that. It's about what you're watching, what you're into, what you've never said out loud to anyone. And that kind of shame doesn't stay contained, it leaks. So she can sense that something is being kept from her even when she can't name it. And that feeling has its own cost. Here's what changes when you open up the conversation. She gets to stop inventing. She gets to stop filling in the blanks. And the false story loses its grip. And the wall that you didn't know that you were living on both sides of begins to come down. Now, you don't need to make any kind of confession. You don't even need to say everything, certainly not all at once. Just pick a calm moment and lead with curiosity. I've been thinking about how we don't really talk about this, and I'd like to change that. You're just giving her the truth instead of leaving her with her own story.
Now, props to this woman for admitting that that's what women are going to do, that they're just going to make shit up in their head and it's going to be negative about you. Now, it's a separate issue because she's talking about guilt and shame. Now, it is a separate issue if you're watching porn and you don't want your woman to know. That's an entirely different situation. I don't know how many women are going to be okay with, hey, babe, since you're not in the mood to give me sex all that often, I've just started watching porn over here. I mean, what we're suggesting here is so far off the rails, but we've got more. Believe me, there's more.
And number 7, it feeds partnered desire and can bring it back. Intentional solo practice does not drain your desire for your partner.
Okay, this is the part where I want to scream. This is the part where I want to scream. Intentional masturbation is not going to drain your desire for your partner, which is directly opposite of what she said at the beginning. The whole point is that when you need her, when you desire her too often, take care of yourself. But now you're telling us when you take care of yourself, it's not going to lessen your desire for her. Pick a lane. Pick a lane. The whole point to it is to tone down how much you want sex. But now you're telling us, well, it's not gonna affect your desire for your partner. And that's a load of crap. That's an absolute load of crap. Because most men, if you have to take care of yourself in a relationship because your partner is not doing it, either way, male or female, okay? If you're having to take care of yourself because your partner is not doing it, it's not healthy. That's not a healthy situation. And just taking care of it yourself, oh, believe me, that is going to lessen your desire for your partner 1,000%, and not just emotionally, but physically. Now, if you're a young guy, you're 25, under 30, might be a little bit of a different situation with what I'm about to say. But if you're in your 40s, 50s, right? If you're horny and you take care of yourself at 4:30 in the afternoon before somebody comes home from work, then it just happens to be miraculously, let's just say her entire theory works. Let's just for a moment pretend that everything she's saying is right. That I take care of myself at 4:30 in the afternoon, and she's going to come home and she's going to feel that I'm not so needy. She's going to be able to tell that I'm not looking at her like a cheeseburger. And lo and behold, wow, now that she knows I don't really need it so much, well, now she's in the mood. And now that's the night she wants sex. And I just let go 2 hours ago. And now what am I supposed to do? Am I going to perform okay? Like, how's that going to work? Either you're going to have an issue getting ready, or in some cases, if you're going for the second time of the day as a man, it's going to take you a long time. It's going to take you a lot longer than it normally would. And then, so what's going to happen? Well, she's going to start making shit up in her head. Say, oh, well, why is it taking so long? Does he not find me attractive? Blah, blah, blah. You follow the point. So she, and this usually happens, right? You let her talk long enough, she's going to contradict herself. The whole point is, hey, man, you're feeling, and this is why at the beginning of the video, I disagreed with how she was using words, because she's really trying to conflate too many different things and say, well, we want you to be desirous of us, but not needy. And it is such a fine, impossible line to walk, especially when you're talking about the differences between men and women, and you're talking about people define words. I mean, it is complete. There's no locked in definition of any of those words. But now, you're just now telling us, hey, if you take care of yourself, it's not going to lessen your desire. Bullshit. I'm good. I'm good. What happens? What happens? Then that night, 7 o'clock, maybe she's feeling it. I already took care of myself at 5. 7 o'clock, she's feeling good. She's now she's in the mood, and I have to say, well, maybe not. Now I'm like, no, I'm good. You want the man to tell us, well, no, I'm good. I took care of myself earlier. I'm good tonight. Now let me know how that works out for you.
In many cases, it actually increases it. The
That's
feedback loop works in both directions. The more present and connected your partnered sex is, the more that you carry that desire into your solo time. And the more that you cultivate a healthy relationship with your own sexuality, the more of that you bring to your partner. And for the man who stopped asking altogether, who walked away from the pursuit and just made a private peace with a sexless marriage, I want to speak to you directly. That retreat makes sense. It protects you from rejection. But a man who has done his own internal work, who has reconnected with his own sexuality in a shame-free way, often becomes way more attractive to the person who he's with. Masturbation then was never the problem. Guilt, secrecy, shame, those were the problem.
So that's it. That's it. It's the man having the problem. It's the man having the problem because we feel guilty, we feel shame for having done it. Now the video goes on for another couple of minutes, but I am not going to play those couple of minutes because the video actually turns out to just kind of be an ad for her, how should I put this, for her guide to masturbation that she's apparently selling to men. Now, we saw her target audience at the beginning of the video, so that's fine. You know what? Anybody finds whatever shtick they can, if they can make money doing it, I'm not going to be the one sitting here saying, no, you shouldn't do that. And I'm sure, depending on the type of man she's targeting, there are men that this might have helped finally get laid once a week. But it's a different kind of a relationship. So now, I wanted to watch it. I wanted to review it because I didn't want to just yell and scream and call her names. I wanted to try to take it from an honest perspective and have an honest opinion on it. Now, like I said, I do have a little bit of a different POV than most men. Okay, I had an interesting career choice, and that's all I'm going to say. But I've spoken to hundreds, if not 1,000 women that the main reason they were speaking to me was complete sexual dissatisfaction because the husband was most of the time not providing enough sex. Wasn't always. Now, one thing I will say in her speech there about feeling need versus desire. Now, I will say that there are some women that complain he always needs sex. He wants too much sex. But the issue for her, the issue there was that their solution to the husband wanting too much sex was for her to go get sex elsewhere that she preferred. So that's a little bit of a different situation. Now, in terms of the woman making the things up in her head, this generally isn't like, it's generally not a topic of conversation a man is going to bring up. If a woman asks, the man is going to tell her, but what exactly would she like us to say? Because the reasons a man is going to be masturbating if they're inside of a relationship, there's not a lot of reasons. It is one of maybe 2 or 3, right? You're not in the mood enough. I got tired of asking about it. Or you put on too much weight, you really let yourself go, I don't find you attractive enough. Or maybe if you're lucky, you can be like, well, you're always so busy with work and the kids. I kind of felt like I might want to take the pressure off of you. Now, that third one might be the only safe response if she's going to ask you why you're doing it. The pouring thing is an entirely different scenario. That depends on the couple. If you're going to watch it, maybe watch it together. Watching it behind somebody's back and all of that, that's a different situation. But for the overwhelming majority of men, sometimes a man can go twice in a day and sometimes they can't, especially as you get older. So the whole idea that, hey, take care of yourself is going to get you lucky with her. The problem is that, like I said, then what happens if it just so happens that the day you took care of yourself, well, now she's horny because she doesn't feel that need coming off you, and now you're either going to have to tell her no, and are you going to tell her the truth? No, babe, I know I've been constantly asking you for sex, but I don't need the sex tonight because I just took care of myself. You let me know how that's going to go, guys. It's not going to go well. This is a huge example of women saying what they would want and telling a man, go ahead and do this or go ahead and do that, or this is what I want. This is a huge example of them telling you what they would want, and then when they would get it, hellfire and damnation is going to occur. So that's it. I'm curious. I know it's not the topic that we usually talk about here. It was not my intent to have that be the discussion, but it's funny. I was talking to a friend earlier in the day, yesterday, saying I'm just looking for a topic that might get the channel some more attention. And then that video showed up in my feed. And now, unfortunately, since I watched that video so many, you get the idea. Now the algorithm is like, oh, so this is what he wants to see. And I am seeing some crazy, crazy stuff. So I'm definitely curious. I got to know what you guys think. But like I said, the premise of this video, man, it's not always the man that wants more sex. I can guarantee you that.